Right now, like right the second in your front yard, there is this massive, incredibly heavy structure, and it is holding literally thousands of pounds of hidden tension.
Oh, absolutely, thousands of pounds.
Right. And it is quietly battling intense heat, drought, and physical trauma just to stay upright. And you probably walked right past it today.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we tend to view trees as just static background architecture.
Like green lampposts.
Exactly, like lampposts. You plant them, they grow, they provide a little shade, and we just assume they require absolutely zero effort on our part.
And that is the exact mindset we are going to break today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today is to completely transform how you look at the trees in your own neighborhood. We are working through a really fantastic stack of materials, specifically expert articles and service guides from Monte Tree Service.
Authored by John Constantine.
Right, by John Constantine. And the goal here is to distill all this highly specialized arboriculture knowledge so you can understand trees for what they really are. I mean, they aren't lawn ornaments.
Not at all.
They are highly dynamic, responsive, living structures that are just constantly reacting to their environment. And they require very strategic care to protect their health and to protect your property.
It really is a critical shift in perspective.
Yeah.
When we stop seeing trees as immovable objects and start seeing them as living, breathing organisms that are constantly under environmental stress, well, the need for proactive care becomes incredibly obvious.
Okay, let's unpack this because John Constantine paints a picture of a literal, invisible battlefield that these trees are fighting on every single day.
Oh, it really is a battlefield.
Yeah, the environment, especially in Southern California where this specific data originates, is notoriously harsh. I mean, we were talking about intense summer heat, severe drought conditions, and those infamous fierce Santa Ana winds.
Those winds are a massive, and I'd say often misunderstood stressor.
How's...
Well, when a tree is neglected in that kind of high wind environment, the first thing that begins to happen is structural failure right within the canopy.
Okay.
The canopy gets too dense, it becomes overgrown, and you end up with what arborists call crossing branches.
This was wild to me when I read it. The idea that a tree can basically injure itself just by, like, blowing in the wind.
It happens all the time. When you have an unmaintained canopy and those strong Santa Ana winds whip through at, 40 or 50 miles per hour, those crossing branches start violently rubbing against each other.
Wow.
Yeah, it creates severe friction. And that friction doesn't just knock some leaves loose, it physically grinds away the outer bark. It creates literal open wounds on the limbs.
And an open wound on a tree is basically an invitation for trouble.
A huge invitation.
But I want to dig into the mechanics of that trouble.
Yeah.
Like, what actually happens when the bark is breached?
Well, just beneath the bark is the tree's entire circulatory system.
Yeah.
You have the xylem, which acts like plumbing, pulling water up from the roots, and the phloem, which is essentially a highway distributing sugars created in the leaves down to the rest of the organism.
So it's very complex.
Very. And when friction tears the bark away, it exposes that delicate vascular system to the outside world. Pests, insects, and fungal spores immediately invade that damp, exposed tissue.
So they essentially just hijack the circulatory system?
Precisely. Fungal infections in particular will colonize those vascular pathways. They literally clog the pipes.
Jeez.
Yeah. The tree can no longer move water or nutrients efficiently, and the whole organism begins to prematurely decline from the inside out.
And it isn't just friction creating those vulnerabilities either. The Monte Tree Service guides talk about how dense, unkempt canopies actually trap moisture against the trunk.
That's right.
So you've got this dark, damp environment hidden deep inside the leaves, completely blocked from the sun, which is just the perfect recipe for that harmful wood rot to take hold.
It's a fungal paradise.
Exactly. But the part that really blew my mind was the aerodynamic factor.
Oh, the wind resistance.
Yeah, think about it like this. If you have a massive, unthinned tree with a super dense canopy and a high windstorm rolls in, it is exactly like stepping outside into a hurricane and opening a massive beach umbrella.
The umbrella analogy is spot on for illustrating aerodynamic pressure. Because the wind cannot physically pass through that dense wall of foliage, the tree becomes a literal sail.
Right.
It catches all that wind, taking the full, brutal kinetic force of the storm. All of that horizontal pressure is transferred directly down the trunk to the root system.
Which vastly increases the risk of the trunk just snapping in half. Or the roots completely failing and tearing right out of the ground.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is how the biological mechanisms of the tree respond to these physical stressors.
How do you mean?
Well, when a tree is fighting wind resistance, fighting internal rot, and trying to sustain dying or damaged branches, it is expending a massive amount of internal energy just to survive.
Just to keep its head above water, basically.
Exactly.
Mm.
So by proactively trimming compromised and dying wood, you aren't just making the tree look visually pleasing. You are physically redirecting the tree's internal energy away from sustaining those doomed limbs
Oh, wow.
and channeling it toward fortifying its natural biological defenses.
So you are literally helping the tree heal itself by taking the dead weight off its shoulders.
Precisely.
Which naturally brings us to how we actually intervene. Because if we know wind, friction, and internal rot are the enemies, how do professionals solve the structural issues?
Very carefully.
Right, which brings us to the surgical precision of tree care. But before we even discuss the specific pruning techniques, we have to talk about the cut itself. Because apparently you can't just hack a branch off anywhere you want.
No, you definitely cannot. The anatomy of the cut is everything in arboriculture.
So where do you cut?
Well, there is a very specific, slightly swollen area at the base of every branch where it meets the trunk. This is called the branch collar.
The branch collar.
Yes, and that collar contains specialized overlapping cells that are absolutely vital for the tree's survival after a cut.
Right, because they allow it to seal over the wound, sort of like a scab forming on our skin.
Actually, it's not like a scab at all. And this is a really crucial distinction.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Humans regenerate tissue to heal.
Right.
We replace the damaged cells. Trees do not heal. They seal.
They seal.
Right. It is a process arborists call code, compartmentalization of decay in trees.
Correct.
Instead of repairing damaged tissue, the tree essentially builds impenetrable cellular walls around the wound to trap the infection and prevent it from spreading deeper into the trunk.
Wow. So they quarantine the damage.
Exactly, they quarantine it. And those specialized cells that build the quarantine wall live entirely inside that branch collar.
Okay, so if you cut the collar.
If you make a flush cut, meaning you saw the branch off completely flat against the trunk, you physically cut off the tree's ability to compartmentalize.
Because you cut off the cells.
Right. The factory that builds the wall is gone. The wound stays permanently open, and severe internal decay is almost guaranteed.
That is incredible. Okay, so assuming the cut is positioned perfectly just outside that collar, how do we choose which branches to actually cut?
That's where the 4 pillars of pruning come in.
Right. John Constantine outlines 4 main strategies. And rather than just listing them, let's look at the specific problems they solve. Let's start with the umbrella in a hurricane problem. How do we fix a tree that is catching too much wind?
That requires a technique called crown thinning.
Crown thinning.
Yeah. The goal here isn't to make the tree shorter. It's entirely about reducing density. Arborists selectively remove specific inner branches to create pathways for airflow.
Right, so the wind can just pass through.
Exactly. By letting the wind pass seamlessly through the foliage, you instantly reduce that sail effect. The data notes this is highly effective for heavy, dense, mature trees like oaks or ficus.
Which also solves the moisture problem, right? Because now sunlight and air can penetrate the interior, drying out that damp bark and preventing fungal rot.
Yes, it tackles both issues at once.
Okay, but what about when a tree isn't just fighting the wind, but it's actively conflicting with its environment? Say, like blocking a sidewalk or scraping the roof of a house.
That's where we move to spatial solutions. If the issue is ground clearance, pedestrians needing to walk, cars needing to park, or maintaining line of sight in a driveway, the technique is crown raising.
Raising the crown makes sense.
Right. You are selectively removing the lowest branches to raise the bottom line of the canopy.
And what if the whole tree has just completely overgrown its permitted footprint? Like it's just too massive for the yard.
Then you employ crown reduction. This is the heavy-duty structural fix to decrease the overall height or spread.
But it's not just chopping the top off, right?
Oh, absolutely not. That's a practice known as topping, which is incredibly destructive. You never want to do that.
Oh,
Instead, professionals carefully cut back main leaders to lateral branches that are large enough to take over the terminal role. This allows the tree to keep growing healthily, just within a much smaller, safer footprint.
and the final piece of the puzzle is deadwooding, which ties right back to that energy redirection we talked about earlier.
Yes, eliminating hazardous, decaying wood from older trees so they can focus their energy on healthy growth.
But hearing all this, I mean, the precision of the branch collar, the specific aerodynamic goals, I have to ask the logical question here.
Sure.
If precision is this critical and cutting an inch too close to the trunk causes permanent decay, how does the average person with a ladder and a chainsaw manage this? Can't you just eyeball it and hack away whatever branches look too long?
I cannot stress enough how bad of an idea that is. It is a death sentence for the tree, but more importantly, it can literally be a death sentence for the homeowner.
Wow, really?
Yes. The Monte Tree Service guides are explicitly clear about the grave dangers of DIY tree care. This isn't just about making an ugly cut. When we talk about trees interacting with urban infrastructure, specifically power lines, the stakes are absolute.
Because the tree branch conducts electricity.
Yes. Trimming vegetation anywhere near active utility lines poses a lethal risk of electrocution.
Even if you don't touch the wire.
Even then, you don't have to touch the wire directly. High voltage can arc across a gap to your tools or the branch you are holding. Specialized training, insulated equipment, and an understanding of electrical line clearance are completely non-negotiable.
That is terrifying.
It is. Plus, unqualified individuals dropping heavy limbs can cause severe damage to the localized grid, knocking out power to entire neighborhoods.
But wait, a lot of people might be thinking, doesn't the utility company come out and trim those trees for free anyway?
They do, but John Constantine points out a critical distinction. Utility companies perform what is called rough line clearance.
Rough line clearance.
Yes. Their singular mandate is protecting the electrical wires from interference. They are not arborists. They are not concerned with the visual appeal, the balance, or the long-term biological health of your tree. They will make drastic, structurally unbalanced cuts if it saves the wire.
So they'll just butcher the tree to save the power line.
Basically, yes. Hiring a certified professional ensures the tree is managed safely around utilities, but also guarantees the cuts respect the tree's structural integrity.
Nobody wants a utility crew giving their century-old oak tree a traumatic buzz cut.
Definitely not.
Okay, so we understand the strict mechanics of how to cut and who should be doing the cutting, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The next massive variable the research brings up is the calendar, because applying the perfect technique in the wrong climate or at the wrong time of year can still be an absolute disaster.
That is a fundamental truth of arboriculture. Tree care is entirely dictated by microclimates. Right. The care regimen for a pine tree growing in the damp Pacific Northwest is completely irrelevant to how you treat a California sycamore or an invasive eucalyptus growing in the dry, hot San Gabriel Valley.
Right, because the soil composition, the average rainfall, the native pest populations, it all changes drastically, zip code to zip code.
And this hyper-local expertise dictates timing. In El Monte, for example, the optimal time for heavy structural pruning is late winter or early spring.
Which is the dormant season.
Exactly, this is the dormant season.
Why is dormancy the golden window for this?
Because when a deciduous tree goes dormant, sap flow slows to a crawl. If you do a heavy structural prune in the winter, you minimize sap loss, which reduces biological stress.
Oh, that makes sense.
Furthermore, the insects and fungal spores that aggressively target those fresh pruning cuts are far less active in the winter cold. So the risk of a secondary infestation dropping into an open wound just plummets.
And the timing isn't just about preventing bugs either. The text specifically highlights that pruning right before a major Southern California heat wave can cause severe sun scald.
Sun scald, yes.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about it. Imagine taking someone who has lived deep inside a dark cave their entire life and suddenly dropping them in the middle of the Mojave Desert at noon.
That is a great way to visualize it.
The interior bark of a dense tree has been heavily shaded by the outer canopy for years, maybe decades. It has zero UV protection.
None at all.
If you aggressively thin that canopy in July, you suddenly expose that tender interior bark to harsh, baking UV rays. It literally sunburns.
Yes, it does.
The bark blisters, splits, and creates another massive vulnerability for disease.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it illustrates how deeply tied a tree's survival is to the specific rhythm of the local seasons.
It's all connected.
It is. Arboriculture isn't just botany. It requires a deep understanding of timing, meteorology, and geography. You have to anticipate the specific environmental pressures of your exact location before you ever pick up a saw.
And the frequency of that intervention matters too.
Absolutely.
The data indicates that mature trees generally need professional pruning every 3 to 5 years. But if you have a fast-growing species, they specifically call out eucalyptus or elm, you might need them assessed every 2 years just to maintain basic structural safety.
Which is a perfect segue, because even with the best intentions, things go wrong. Decades of neglect by a previous homeowner or just sudden severe weather can instantly turn a beautiful landscape asset into a dangerous liability.
Exactly. This is where we pivot from routine maintenance to crisis management, because the sources spend a lot of time detailing the warning signs. Like, what does a failing tree actually look like? What are the red flags that scream, this is an emergency?
Well, the first signs of an unhealthy tree are usually visible in the canopy and the trunk. You want to look for dead or dying branches hanging loosely.
The ones they call widowmakers.
Yes, widowmakers in the industry. Very dangerous. You might also see extensive peeling bark, which indicates the vascular tissue underneath has died.
But those are the early indicators. What are the catastrophic red flags?
A sudden, severe leaning of the trunk is a major one, especially if you examine the base and see uprooted or lifted soil on the opposite side of the lean.
What does that mean?
That points to catastrophic root failure. The anchor has physically snapped underground.
Oh, wow.
Deep vertical cracks running down the main trunk are another massive red flag. That means the entire weight-bearing structure is compromised.
So the tree could just split.
Exactly. And finally, widespread fungal growth, like large conch mushrooms growing directly out of the base of the trunk, is a major indicator of severe internal decay. If you see those mushrooms, the structural wood inside is already rotting.
And the danger of an unmaintained tree isn't just the obvious threat of it falling on your car. There is this insidious domino effect of neglect that the Monte Tree Service guides outline, and this is where it really hits the listener's wallet.
Oh, yes. The financial impact.
Let's say you have an overgrown tree leaning near your roof. You ignore it. Leaves and debris constantly drop and eventually clog your rain gutters.
Which many homeowners just treat as a minor weekend annoyance, but structurally, it could be devastating.
Right. Because when those gutters clog during a heavy storm, the water has nowhere to go. It overflows, runs down the siding of your house, and pools directly around the foundation.
And water is heavy.
So heavy. Water weighs over 8 pounds a gallon. When hundreds of gallons pool around your house, it creates incredible hydrostatic pressure pushing inward against your concrete foundation.
Right.
Over time, that pressure causes microfractures, which turn into massive foundational cracks, costing tens of thousands of dollars in structural repairs.
It perfectly illustrates how interconnected a property is. Proactive tree care isn't just landscaping, it is literally foundation protection.
So let's say the absolute worst happens. A severe storm hits, the roots fail, and a massive tree comes crashing down, completely blocking your driveway. The guides emphasize emergency removal, but they highlight some crucial steps you have to take before the chainsaws ever start.
First and foremost, never, under any circumstances, try to cut or move a fallen tree yourself.
Even if it's already resting on the ground, like it's already fallen.
Especially if it is on the ground. This raises an important question about how we perceive wood. We think of a fallen log as static and dead. But a freshly fallen tree is a loaded spring.
A loaded spring.
Yes, is full of massive kinetic energy. Because the trunk and branches are contorted against the ground, some wood fibers are under extreme compression, being squeezed together, while others are under massive tension, being stretched like a rubber band.
Okay, I see where this is going.
If an amateur goes in with a chainsaw and cuts the wrong tension branch, that energy violently releases. The trunk can roll and crush you, or a branch can snap back with lethal force.
Wow.
You have to rely on specialized crews who know how to read compression and tension wood and safely dismantle it using proper rigging.
And from a purely practical standpoint, John Constantine offers a great piece of logistical advice. Before anyone touches that fallen tree, before the cleanup crew arrives, you must document all the damage.
Take photos.
Yes, take clear photos of your driveway, your vehicles, your roof, whatever was in the path. You need that unedited evidence for your insurance claims before cleanup starts.
That is vital. And the cleanup process doesn't end when the heavy trunk is hauled away. The text specifically highlights the necessity of stump grinding.
Right, you can't just leave a massive stump rotting in the front yard.
No, because a decaying stump becomes a permanent magnet for long-term pest invasions. Termites, carpenter ants, and aggressive fungal diseases will quickly colonize that massive dead root system underground.
Which is dangerously close to your house.
Exactly. And from that staging ground, they can easily migrate to your surrounding healthy trees, or worse, directly into the wood framing of your house. Comprehensive yard restoration requires dealing with the aftermath all the way down into the soil.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from the microscopic cellular walls of a branch collar all the way to hydrostatic foundation pressure and massive emergency extractions. To summarize everything we've unpacked today, trees are not long furniture.
Far from it.
They are dynamic, responsive, and incredibly complex biological systems. They are battling intense heat, drought, and high-velocity winds every single day.
And by understanding their internal biological responses, we can intervene to help them fight that battle. Applying targeted pruning techniques like thinning and reduction actively mitigates wind resistance and spatial conflicts.
Right.
Respecting local microclimates and timing those cuts perfectly ensures the tree compartmentalizes decay efficiently rather than suffering further environmental stress.
Ultimately, being proactive protects your property, protects your foundation from the domino effect of clogged gutters, and ensures you have a beautiful, healthy landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would strongly encourage you, the listener, the next time you walk out your front door today, just take a moment.
Just look at them.
Yeah, really look at the trees on your property. Don't just see green leaves and brown bark. Try to look at them as the intricate, living structures. They are constantly managing wind, balancing their own immense weight, and reacting to the weather.
Look for those crossing branches.
Check the base for lifted soil, and just observe the overall health of the canopy.
It really does change how you experience your own neighborhood. Which brings us to our final thought. The source material briefly mentions the phrase, the future of your urban forest.
Right.
And it got me thinking. We all naturally tend to view our front yard tree as isolated landscaping. It is my tree on my lawn. But what if every individual property owner began viewing their single tree not in isolation, but as one critical, interconnected pillar of a massive, citywide urban forest?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
If we all managed our individual trees with this kind of proactive biological precision, how might that collective shift completely transform a city's overall climate, the local wildlife, and the resilience of our communities in the decades to come?
It is an incredible thought. When you look at it that way, we aren't just tending our own gardens. We are actively managing the lungs of our cities.
A completely different way to look at that giant green lamp post on the corner. Until next time, keep looking closer.